Welcome to Networking RX, a podcast devoted to helping business professionals like you enhance your networking skills in order to become more proficient giving and receiving quality business referrals and improving the overall quality of your life and the lives of those around you. The Networking RX podcast is a production of AmSpirit Business Connections, an organization whose mission is to empower business success through networking.
Welcome to the Networking RX. Appreciate you coming back for another episode. This is Frank Egan. I'm founder and president of AmSpirit Business Connections. Thanks for tuning in, subscribing, referring others, everything that you do. Today I want to talk about small talk. I want to have a little small talk about small talk. I made a post on Facebook, and I consistently post on Facebook and LinkedIn. Those are kind of my go-tos. And the title of the post was simply this: why is there apprehension towards small talk? And the reason I want to chat on this, discuss this, is, and I'll go ahead and I'll read the post. It's real short. The reason I wanted to talk about this is I had a fair amount of commentary on it. I have commentary on, I get commentary here or there. This one seemed to kick off a lot of commentary, and I have certainly my input with respect to the commentary that I got. So at any rate, in the show notes, I'll put the link to the LinkedIn post. That seems to be the easiest way to do it. I don't know how to do it with respect to Facebook, so you can actually see the post. But let me go ahead and read the post. Again, the title of the post was, why is there apprehension towards small talk? So I'll quote here. Engaging in small talks makes many people anxious. This anxiety comes down to one thing: fear. Fear of being rejected, fear of having nothing to contribute, fear of getting stuck in an awkward conversation. Fear not. You have things to contribute. And with a little planning and practice, you'll never run out of things to say. As for rejection, everyone, including the most well-connected, confident person, has this fear. So if everyone has this fear, then everyone will welcome you engaging them in conversation with them. Not a very good sentence. So make somebody's day, engage in small talk with them. End quote. So I talk about if there's a theme on here that comes up time and time again. Well, certainly know, like, and trust comes up time and time again here. But if there's another theme that comes up, it's small talk. It's a theme with respect to networking I hear all the time, because when I get out and I work with groups, and I'll open it up to questions, that's always a question that comes up. I bet $1,000 if I open it up that somebody will say, what's your advice on small talk? How do you handle this? How do you get over this apprehension? I don't like to going in networking events because of this, or I don't know what to say. And so it clearly is a problem. It's clearly on people's minds, and that's probably why I got a fair number of comments on this. Not a ton. It's not a divisive issue like religion or politics or whatever, world matters. But it's something that I got a fair amount of commentary on. So I wanted to kind of go through and talk about some of these comments, and then just kind of offer my own commentary with respect to those. The first comment I got, one of the comments I got, I should say, I don't know if it was first. These things come in all sorts of different orders. Quote, small talk is one of those skills that someone just seems to have and others think they will never be able to cultivate. I used to be one of those people. But like a lot of skills, fear and inability to participate in small talks become easier with practice and conversation with unfamiliar people. Being able to participate in small talk can be a very important life skill. It's not plural. Thanks for the post. End quote. There's a degree of truth to this, and I think I'm pretty good at small talk. And I always I always pull short of saying, oh, I'm an expert, I'm great at something. But I think I'm relatively comfortable. And I don't know if it's necessarily being good or just being comfortable, but I do understand what this person leaving the comment is saying, because I see people out there as well who seem to be even more comfortable than I am. They get into situations and they just kind of roll with it. And they have a knack, I think, to a degree. Engaging in small talk, it's a lot like humor, in the sense that humor is really about taking risks. A comedian or somebody who's trying to be funny is really taking a risk in whatever they say, and the risk that that joke or that little quip is going to land or not. And I think the same thing is true with respect to small talk. People engage in small talk, and it's you hit on something or you don't hit on something. And if you hit on something, it's like gold. You can just kind of roll with it. And I've been in small talk conversations where I think I'm going to hit on something and I don't. For example, I've had conversations recently with people in the United Kingdom, in the UK, and this, I don't know, maybe somebody might call this racist. I'm just assuming that they're in tune with soccer. I don't know why. It just seems to me that soccer is a really big sport in the United Kingdom. In all of Europe, it's a big sport. There's more money in soccer over there than there probably is in the NFL in the United States. It's been around a long time, and there's a lot of interest in it. First of all, it's kind of a year-round thing. There's always, whereas professional football is kind of a fall, early winter sort of a thing. But I've had these small talk conversations thinking, okay, I'm going to kind of take this thing a little further, or I'm going to use this to kind of kick off the conversation. My kids are really into soccer, and Saturday mornings they have the British Premier League on, and there seems to be a lot going on with respect to soccer. So I think, okay, here's an inroad to have a conversation. And there have been people who have been like, yeah, I don't watch soccer, I don't even care. It's like, okay, that didn't go over as well as I thought. I have to take a different tact. So when this person is saying small talk is one of those skills that some people seem to have and others think they'll never be able to cultivate, I get it. Because at times I feel that as well. And I think it's just being able to hit on the right topics. And the people that I see are really good at it, or think they're really good, they just in the moment are able to hit the right topic. It's something they see, something they've heard, just a gut feel, and they're able to kind of have that conversation. And they come up, and it's really kind of having that inroad with that topic that I wouldn't have thought to have. And maybe part of it is because they're there and they kind of jump into the conversation, they're a little better at it. So other commentaries, jumping into other commentaries. There's a very short one. Small talk is good. No agenda, just talking. And that's very true. I think a lot of times people think of small talk as this precursor to the pitch, their ability to pitch, Well, who's your financial advisor? There's my small talk. Who's your financial advisor? And I've had that. I've had people come at me with that. That's not really small talk. It's small talk is just kind of that conversation that really has no meaning other than just to kind of build the relationship. So there can't be any sort of an agenda. I guess there is an agenda in the sense that you're trying to build a relationship, but there's no business, there's no transactional agenda to it, as this person says. I totally agree with that. No agenda. Another comment, fear is definitely an issue. I also think the art of small talks to continue to wither away with the increasing use of text and social media. I believe that many don't know how to respond in person due to being behind a screen most of the day. Further, when behind a screen, there's lag time in responding that, of course, will not be possible in person. It's all sad. I don't know about sad. Yeah, we do spend a lot of time on our computers. We do spend a lot of time on our phones. Small talk is still important, and it might. I beg to differ, really, kind of with this whole premise, in that having computers and being on screens reduces our ability. Certainly, there's a lag. You text, there's a lag. You email, there's certainly more of a lag. But what social media has done, what computers has done, is it's put us in contact with more people. If you think before there was any electronics at all, just think about that. We're talking back in the days of George Washington and Betsy Ross. There was small talk, but you only had small talk with people who were in the vicinity that you were in, people that you could travel to see, and 15 miles was a long ways. 15 miles, on a horse. I'm not a full gallop, obviously, but 15 miles, it was a long way. And cities were generally about 15 miles apart. If you look at the U.S. population, you look at not major cities, but you look at decent-sized little municipalities and towns, they're all about 15 minutes apart. And there's a reason for that, because that was the amount of time, that was a reasonable amount of time on a horse you could get to and get home. And of course, you had people in your locale. So we had less people to have small talk with, whereas with computers and social media and Zoom and all these things, we just have the ability to talk to more people. And it's easy to say, well, people get stuck behind phones and that. My kids have their phones in their hands all the time, and I don't see it stunting them at all. I don't see it stunting them at all. In fact, I think they're in a better position than we are. Another comment, great advice. I enjoy small talk. Well, thank you very much. Here's another one. I love small talk. It's what relationships are built on, finding that common ground, and then it grows. And that's the key to small talk. Again, the first comment, no agenda, or the second comment, no agenda, right? No agenda. It's about finding that common ground. What do we have in common? Again, UK, I'm trying to, soccer. Do you like soccer? Is it Manchester U or Manchester City? And when it's not there, it's kind of demoralizing. But when it's there, it's kind of a neat conversation to have. And they know things I don't know, and we have something in common and something I can refer back to. We tend to resonate with people who have things in common with us. Might have kids, that's something in common. Like a profession, a certain team, that's something in common with. That's why weather comes up all the time, because it's something we have in common. COVID has been especially useful because it's something we all have in common around the world. Another comment, small talk grows into conversation and often referrals. Very true, because small talk builds a relationship. You find things in common. People tend to get a sense that they've gotten to know you, like you, and trust you. And once they trust you, then it's easy to pass on referrals. And small talk kind of kicks that off. Hey, did you see the game last night? That's small talk. What about this weather? Man, it's snowing. Or boy, it's hot. Those are things that are small talk and can help get people comfortable with us. Another comment, I built my business on small talk. And I think that's true for many people out there. That small talk is an important aspect of building a business. Especially, and Matt Ward, who I've had on this program a number of times, will share. Matt Ward is the author of the book More, Word of Mouth Referrals, Lifelong Customers and Raving Fans. He talks about small talk all the time, and that small talk is kind of that little, that kicking off point for professional service providers. People who are looking for referrals, people who are dependent upon relationships to be successful need small talk. Another comment here is, when I was younger, I used to be afraid to speak at all. Fear I would say something stupid, fear I would get rejected. Don't let fear hold you back. I now speak for large groups all over the world, and I love it. The more you do, the easier it gets. And I think, I think fear is there for all of us, and we can say, oh, I'm not afraid of small talk anymore. I get it, I get it, but in all honesty, if I stop and I can have small talk with my neighbor, with people I'm meeting, but if I'm in a room and there are a bunch of Fortune 500 CEOs, just as an example, I'm going to be a little more apprehensive because that's not really my place. And I think we're most comfortable with respect to small talk when we're kind of in our place. So back to this comment, when I was younger, I used to be afraid to speak at all. Um, you know, Part of that is just kind of our position. When I was younger too, I was afraid to speak. When I was in school, I didn't want to speak to teachers. Now when I run into old teachers, we're kind of at an equal plane all of a sudden. And that's what's happened to this particular person. One, it's getting comfortable with it, but also it's a power dynamic. And I don't mean power in like the political or an aggressive sense, but just being comfortable that, if small talk goes awry, I still have a standing in the world. Whereas when you're younger, certainly when you're a teenager, and you're so worried about what people think, and do you fit in, and will you be accepted, and if not, what does that mean? It can be a little more apprehensive. I think we get to a point in time where it's like, I don't care. I don't care if these people reject me. That's their issue. And I think one of the things is once you leave high school and you go off to college, and there's multiple, most small colleges are bigger than large high schools. And so when you get into mid-size and large universities, you're running into lots and lots of people. And when you have more and more people, there's a greater likelihood that you're going to have people who resonate with you. And so if I went to a small high school, the population of people who are going to accept you or reject you is a whole lot smaller. And so every conversation seems to have that much more meaning to it. Whereas when you get into a larger high school, you're going to run into people who are your kind. And when you get off to college, you're certainly going to run into people who are your kind. And when you have a stable of people who are your kind, you're less concerned about being rejected by people who aren't your kind. That's just the way I sort of look at it. Another comment here. I enjoy talking with strangers. I enjoy talking with strangers most, anywhere, anytime. I usually start with something humorous like, "Excuse me, but I think you're in my seat or spot." Responses have always been positive, and conversation starts immediately. Again, it gets back to my original post, is that fear not, everybody is afraid. Everybody's afraid of not being accepted. Everybody has fears. And so if you take the time to, everybody has fear of being rejected. If you take the time to say, "Hey, I'm willing to talk to you. I'm willing to make an idiot of myself. You're in my seat. I know you're not, but I'm just going to say that just to be funny," and take that risk, then you kind of have an affinity towards that person. You can't help but like somebody who's just going to come out of their comfort zone and say, "Hey, you might be in my seat." So anyhow, small talk apprehension, it's out there. It's a natural thing. Certainly practice, as some of these comments have said, practice will temper it. Certainly, just being more confident in being out there and being with your crowd is going to help it. But it's a great way to build relationships. It's a great way to find common ground. It's a great way to lead into referrals. So find ways to embark on small talk. To wrap up, remember, we're looking for enterprising people to join our team as franchisees in AmSpirit Business Connections. This is a unique franchise opportunity. We work with small business people. We help small business people get referrals. We create weekly networking groups. It's unique, though, because these meetings are in the morning. Successful business types, our franchisees, can do this in addition to what else they do. Our franchisees all do something else. For a couple hours in the morning, a few mornings a week, they're working with their chapters. The rest of the time, they're web designers, they're merchant services people, telecommunications consultants, realtors, career transition coaches, other types of coaches, life coaches, Mary Kay representatives. The list goes on and on. So if it's something you think you're interested in, or you know somebody who might be interested in, connect them with me. My email is in the show notes or in the information at the end of the podcast.
Thanks for joining us on the Networking RX podcast. Please put what you've learned into action today and let us know if you have questions, comments, or ideas for future topics. You can email them to us at podcast@amspirit.com. That's AmSpirit.com. Finally, so you never miss an episode, be sure to subscribe to the Networking RX podcast through iTunes, Overcast, or however you receive your podcasts. Now get out and network with someone.
The Networking RX podcast is the copyright production of AmSpirit Business Connection. All rights reserved.